The Cats of Consciousness, written and illustrated by Joseph Kelly, Chapter 8, Impulse and Desire, the Spark of Action. Watch a cat encountering something it wants, perhaps a toy just out of reach or a sunbeam moving across the floor. Notice the pure, unfiltered quality of its desire, the way its whole being aligns with that wanting. There's no internal committee debating the wisdom of chasing the laser dot, no voice suggesting it should want something more sophisticated. In this immediate alignment between impulse and action, our feline friends offer profound insights into the nature of desire itself. Consider Michael's journey with desire. As a successful corporate lawyer, he had achieved everything he thought he wanted: status, financial security, professional respect. Yet underneath this accomplishment lay a persistent emptiness. "Michael, I realized I had been pursuing desires that weren't really mine," he shares. "They were more like inherited scripts about what success should look like." The dance of impulse and desire. Understanding the interplay between momentary impulses and sustained desires reveals important insights about human motivation. Like watching a cat shift from casual interest to focused stalking, we can observe how fleeting impulses sometimes crystallize into enduring desires. The alchemy of transformation. Elena, a painter, describes the moment when a casual impulse to experiment with watercolors transformed into a passionate pursuit of art. Elena. "It wasn't just about wanting to paint," she explains. "The initial impulse opened a door to a deeper desire for creative expression that had always been there, waiting to be discovered." This transformation from impulse to desire often follows a pattern. 1. The initial spark of interest or attraction. 2. A moment of recognition or resonance. 3. The deepening of attention and engagement. 4. The emergence of sustained desire. Yet not all impulses should become desires, and not all desires serve our highest good. Like a cat that learns which prey is worth chasing and which is better left alone, we can develop discernment about which impulses to nurture and which to simply observe and release. The anatomy of desire. Desires operate at different levels of our being, each with its own characteristics and needs. Physical desires. Our most basic wants and needs arise from our physical nature. Like a cat's uncomplicated desire for food, warmth, or rest, these desires are straightforward and legitimate. Yet in humans, even physical desires can become complicated by mental and emotional factors. Thomas, a wellness coach, helps clients distinguish between genuine physical needs and habitual cravings. Thomas. "Learning to read your body's true desires versus conditioned responses changes everything," he shares. "It's about returning to a more natural relationship with physical wanting." Emotional desires. The heart has its own hungers, for connection, recognition, security, and love. These emotional desires often drive our behavior more powerfully than physical needs, yet they're frequently less clearly understood. Rachel discovered that her desire for career advancement was really about emotional validation. Rachel, "Once I recognized that what I really wanted was to feel valued," she explains, "I found many other ways to fulfill that desire besides constant professional striving." The higher reaches of desire. Beyond physical and emotional wants lie deeper currents of desire that shape the course of our lives. Like a cat that somehow knows the perfect sunbathing spot in a house it's never visited, we too possess intuitive desires that guide us toward our authentic path. Aspirational desires. These are the wants that pull us toward growth and development. Maria, a musician, describes how her desire to master her instrument transcended simple ambition. Maria. "It's not about becoming famous or even successful in the conventional sense. It's about serving the music itself, about becoming a clearer channel for something greater than myself." Soul-level desires. At the deepest level, desires can arise from our essential nature, pointing us toward our unique contribution to the world. David, a former corporate executive turned environmental advocate, describes discovering such a desire. David, "It felt less like wanting something new and more like remembering something I'd always known. The desire to protect natural habitats wasn't just a career change, it was a calling." Working with desire's shadows. Not all desires lead us toward growth and fulfillment. Like a cat that might fixate on catching its own tail, we can become trapped in patterns of wanting that create suffering rather than satisfaction. Compulsive desires. Lisa's relationship with achievement offers an illuminating example. Lisa, I was constantly driven to prove myself, she shares. Each accomplishment brought momentary relief but never lasting satisfaction. Conflicting desires. Often different desires within us compete for attention and resources. James, a writer, struggled with simultaneously wanting creative freedom and financial security. James, instead of letting these desires fight each other, he explains, I learned to honor both, finding ways to maintain stability while creating space for artistic exploration. The art of conscious desire. Learning to work skillfully with impulses and desires transforms our relationship with motivation and action. Like a cat that maintains its dignity whether its hunt succeeds or fails, we can learn to hold our desires without being consumed by them. The desire inquiry practice. Begin with what I call the deep listening approach to desire. 1. Notice the initial impulse or wanting. 2. Rather than immediately acting or suppressing, become curious. 3. Ask yourself, where in my body do I feel this desire? What emotions accompany it? What deeper wanting might lie beneath the surface? Sarah, a business entrepreneur, found this practice revolutionary. Sarah, I realized many of my business decisions were reactive responses to surface desires. Taking time to understand the deeper wanting helped me make choices more aligned with my true values. Practical integration, morning desire mapping. Start your day with conscious attention to your wants and impulses. Michael, a teacher, developed what he calls desire literacy through this practice. Michael, each morning I take a few moments to notice what I'm wanting. From the simple desire for coffee to deeper yearnings for meaning or connection. Michael, this awareness helps me respond more consciously to desires as they arise throughout the day. The pause practice. When strong desires arise, implement the pause practice. Take 3 conscious breaths. Notice the quality of the wanting. Consider whether acting on this desire serves your higher good, and choose consciously how to respond. Elena describes how this transformed her relationship with impulse buying. Elena, that small pause creates space between the impulse and action. Often I discover the desire isn't really about the item at all, it's about something deeper I'm seeking. Working with difficult desires. Some desires require special attention and skill to navigate. Persistent desires. Like a cat that never gives up watching a bird's nest, some desires remain with us over long periods. Rachel's desire to write a novel stayed with her for decades before she began. Rachel, I learned that persistent desires often point toward important life directions, she shares. Rachel, the key is distinguishing between authentic calling and mere obsession. Impossible desires. Sometimes we desire things that cannot be, at least not in the form we imagine. Thomas's experience with chronic illness taught him about transforming impossible desires. Instead of focusing on the desire to be completely well, which wasn't possible, I learned to work with the deeper desire for well-being, finding new ways to experience health within my limitations. Integration in daily life. Bring conscious awareness to desires throughout your day. Professional context. Notice how desires influence your work choices. David, a manager, discovered patterns in his decision-making. Understanding my desires for both innovation and security helped me balance risks more effectively in business planning. Relationships. Observe how desires shape your interactions. Marina found this awareness transformed her partnerships. Recognizing when I'm acting from authentic desire versus fear of abandonment changed how I show up in relationships. Creative expression. Let desires guide your creative process. James describes using desire as creative fuel. Instead of fighting or following every creative impulse, I learned to dance with them, letting desires inform but not control my artistic choices. Looking ahead. As we prepare to explore mindset and cognition in our next chapter, notice how your thoughts and beliefs influence your desires, and how desires in turn shape your thinking patterns. The interplay between what we want and how we think creates the dynamic field of conscious experience. Remember, like our feline friends who remain unashamed of their desires while maintaining the ability to let go and move on, you too can develop a more natural and conscious relationship with wanting. The key lies not in conquering desire but in understanding it deeply enough to let it serve rather than control you. Your desires are neither enemies to be conquered nor masters to be served blindly. They are messengers carrying important information about your needs, values, and potential directions for growth. As you continue this exploration, trust that each moment of conscious engagement with desire brings you closer to authentic and fulfilling action.